Okay. Okay. So last time, Joy, we started with the basic functions in Python, and then we moved a little bit on the files, how to open files and how to amend files, how to read data from files, but we didn't continue that. Okay. So, but to be able to continue explaining that to you, I'm using a method that I'm creating, separating code in functions. Okay. So I will try to explain functions first to you, and then we will continue using files. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So what do you know about functions in Python?
It gives a sort of commands to the Python.
Okay.
Like not commands to be exact, but the specific task.
Okay. So we group certain commands, certain Python commands, and that do a specific function. For example, I want to open a file and read some data from a file, or even get specific data from a file, or even search for specific text or numbers inside a file and return something. So do you know what is the difference between a function and a procedure or a method?
No, not really.
Okay, so functions, as we said, is a group of commands that do specific task, but it is able to return a value. But a method is actually not going to return a value for us. Okay, so you can use the same commands in both function and method, but what separates both of them is that function can return a value. It can be an integer, it can be a string, it can be a Boolean. Okay, it doesn't matter, but it will return something to the user that the user can, not the user, but it can return something to your original code, and your original code can use that return value. So I will show you that for, I mean, in practice, but I need to explain that to you. So the method will not return anything. So when we use, so let me share that with you first. Okay, so can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So as I said, a function is basically a block of code which only runs when it is called, and you can pass it data, and we call that parameters, and it should return a value. Okay, so again, in the original book, actually, this is already, I mean, the original book that come from Cambridge, they are specifying what is the difference between a method and a function. Forgive us here the PDF file that we're using. He is not separating them, so he's calling. So if you see here, he's defining something called name, and it's only printing something. So when it prints, actually, it does not return anything to the user. It outputs something to the user, but it does not return anything. But he's still calling it a function. But the accurate thing, as the syllabus said, is the difference between a function and a method, that the function returns a value. Return means that he have to use the keyword return, and I will show you how. Okay, so when you print something to the user, it is not a return value. This is something that you show on the screen only. Okay, good. So we move to the next. Okay, so actually, okay, he called that name a function, and he called it by just calling. So he defined a name, and then he called it under it by writing name. Okay, between, and you have two brackets. Okay, so when you call it, every time you call it, it will print something to the screen. Okay, and in this case, it's calling hello. So he called the name 3 times, and the output will be 3 times printed to the screen, hello, hello, hello. Is that clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay, okay, that's good. So yeah. So as we said here, that a function or a method can take parameters. Okay, it can take a string, for example, and then it will do some processing on that. So in this case, he's taking a name as a string, because as you see, there is a double quotation. He's passing, for example, he's passing to the function that is called grading. He's passing the word Taha in one case, and in another line, he's passing Sam. So as we said before, when we see double quotation, it means that he's passing a string. Okay, so in Python, it does not allow us to specify what kind of data the variable will have. It means that I can pass a string, I can pass an integer, I can pass anything. And this is sometimes making how to say confusion. And you will see when we're talking about pseudocode that no, when we're defining a variable, he will specify: is it an integer, is it a string, or is it even a float, for example? Okay, so in this case that we are having here, he is passing a name, and the name is a string. Okay, so he will print, based on the input, he will print hello, and then whatever inside the name, he will print it also. So in the first case, he will say hello Taha. On the second case, when he passed Sam to the function, it will output hello Sam. So is that clear to you? Does this make any sense to you?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So here it's a practice question. So he's saying create a function for average in which it takes sum and count as a parameter. Okay, sum and count as parameters. Okay. So you know that for us to get an average, you take a sum. You add, of course, in this case, suppose you add some values, okay, and you divide. To get the average, you have to divide on the count of that values, and only then you can get an average. But he doesn't make he doesn't take many parameters, so he just give two parameters, sum and count. But let us try something here, I think, so that it just for us to make sense to what we are saying. Let me see here. Just open. So let me just stop the sharing, and then we go to. So can you see my screen here?
Yeah.
So of course, so everything I'm trying to explain to you, I make it inside a function to make the code more a bit readable. Of course, it will not be readable for you from the first shot, because this is the first time you're still learning the thing. But a little bit by little bit, it will be more readable and more understandable for you. So now, can you help me, please? I want you to help me to create an average function that I pass to it two integers, and I wanted to, and also a count, and I wanted to return the average of that numbers. So can we think together? So if I pass it num1, okay, and then I pass it num2, and then the count of how many numbers I am passing. Okay, so now I want you to tell me what we need to do. What we need to do here. So I want to calculate the average, right? So what would be the how can I get an average for num1 and num2?
By giving them a value first.
But wait. When we design a function, so okay, wait. So do you know what is the name of our function? It's called what in this our case?
Average.
Okay, perfect. So we can write here a comment that average is clear. We can, yeah, calculate average of two numbers. Okay, so can you bear with me how we call a function inside the code? So we have the function is called average. How we call it here? If we want to call the function, what should we do? What should we write? Okay, wait. Okay, easy. Okay, so just now. Okay, so did you notice he defined a function called grading, and he have a parameter called name, and to be able to call that function, he call it at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
So he called the function name, okay, and he passed a parameter to it. So it is called here, the function is called grading, right? So he call it down grading and he pass it a parameter. He call it again grading and he pass it a different parameter. Okay, so this is how we call a function. Okay, so we go back. And now here, so the function is called average, right? So we call it average this way. This is, so here I can write a comment that calling the function average. Okay, now there is, okay, so how can we can we, I mean, we need to pass 3 parameters, right? Okay, so what do you think? Should we write the parameters directly inside here, like this, or should we define them first? Which one is more clearer to you? Should we define like that?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me, what should we write? For example, num1 equal 10. So we need to pass 3 parameters, right? So we need to define here three variables that we need to pass to the function. So can you tell me? Okay, perfect. Yes. Okay, tell me. Should what just define give me any value that you want.
5.
How much?
5.
Okay, perfect. Okay, and then the last one.
The count will be 2.
Okay, perfect. So now what should we write first? Just tell me what I write.
10 divided by 5.
Wait. We have a function. The function is the definition of the function is on line 138, right?
Okay.
So we look at the definition of the function first, and we see how many parameters it's taking. So num1 is parameter number 1, num2 is parameter number 2, and count is parameter number 3. So we need to give the input to the function on the same arrangement that we based on our definition. Okay, so here we decided that num1 is equal 10. So we need to write here num1. And what the Python will do, it will take the value inside num1, which is 10 in our case, and it will pass it to the function. And based on that, the function will do the calculation and return something to us. Does this make any sense to you? Or it's a bit complicated? It's not clear.
I get it so far.
Okay, so again, now, what should I give again to the function? Because I'm calling the function with something, with some input. So tell me, what is the second input that I need to give to the function?
Num2.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, what else?
And the count.
Okay, good. So avg equal, okay. Okay, so now think with me. Now we passed 3 parameters to the function, okay? So we need to define how the function itself work. We know to get the average, we need to add 2 numbers and we divide by the count of the numbers. This is to get an average, right? So we need to do some kind of operations here. So we have to do a plus operation, and then we need to do a division. So what do we need to add? So inside here, we need to decide where to put num1, where to put num2, and where to put the count. So can you help me? Think with me. It doesn't need to be 100% correct what you are saying, but when you're thinking, you are building the skills, okay?
Num1 plus num2 in the bracket.
Okay.
And divided by the count.
Okay. So as I told you, since this we decide that this is a function, so we have to return a value. To return a value, so okay, so after the calculation is done, it will be saved inside a variable that is called average. This is line 139. Okay, and we need to return this average variable to our code here on line 149. So on line 149, we will pass 10 and 5 and 2, and then we expect something in return. And that thing will be, let's say, I want to say, let's say we call it AV, so I don't confuse you. Okay, so we define here a variable that's called AV, and that variable, we put 0 in it, okay? We just initialize it to be 0, okay? Do you know what is the difference between initialization and declaration?
No.
Okay, so in Python, there is no declaration, but in pseudocode, there is. So just bear with me, please. When you declare something, means that you tell Python that I'm using a variable that is called AV, and it is of a type integer. But in Python, it doesn't have like that. In pseudocode, it have. So in pseudocode, do you still remember what is called declare?
Yeah, at the very beginning of the.
Yes, at the very beginning of the code, we say declare, and then we give a variable name, let's say average, and then we put a colon, and then we say it is an integer, or even it is a string, or even it is a character, right? So this is called declaration. So declaration, you are telling the programming code or the computer, please reserve a space in the memory for me for something that is for a variable. It's called average, and it will be of type integer, or it can be of type real, or of type float. Okay, it depends on what I need. So this is the declaration, but inside the memory location there will be nothing. It's 0 because you didn't put any value. But in our case, can you look at line 149, please? So in AV, in Python in general, there is no declaration, but you have initialization. Initialization means Python, please reserve a place in the memory for a variable called AV and put 0 in that space in the memory. So again, in pseudocode, we have declaration and we have initialization, of course. But in Python, we don't have initialization. We don't have declaration. We only have initialization. So we initialize the variable or the space in the memory with a value. So what we are doing here for count and for num1 and num2, we're actually doing initialization. We're putting a value inside the space in the memory, and we giving a variable name for that space in the memory. We call it num1. Does this make any sense to you so far?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So actually, just let us look, please. Can we call? You still recall back the print function, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So do you see what I did on line 150?
Yeah.
I printed what is inside the variable AV. So what if I change AV to count? What do you think will be the output?
AV equals to 2. Count equals to 2.
Perfect. Okay, so you understand this. Okay, that's clear. If I put so if I comment a line, it will not be executed. So I just commented it so that it's not executed. So what I will print here, wait, I want to do actually 2 times printing actually. So here, so I will do the printing. I want to know what is inside the variable AV before and after the running the function. To know if the function really works or not. It returns a value for me or not. What do you think will be the output? Okay.
75 equals 0.
So the first, okay, the first line 150. If we print what is inside AV, does it make sense that it is equal 0 in our case?
No.
It doesn't make sense here?
Oh yeah, because print average equals to 0.
Yes, because we didn't do any operation yet, right? But then after we call the function, this when you call it like that, it will go to line 138, and it will start executing whatever we put here. And in line 140, it will return to us whatever we have calculated. And this return will be stored inside AV in line 152. So when we print in line 154, when we print AV again, it will no longer become 0. It will be the output of the function that we have done here. So the return will be 7.5. What do you think? Does this make any sense? Do you know why we get 7.5?
Yeah.
So 15. Yeah, okay, I'm listening. Yes, please.
Because you have written the code of at 152 where it's the AV is from the value of 139 where they calculated the output, which is 7.5, the average.
Okay. So if we change the value here, instead of num2 become 5, we make it 6. What do you think will be the output?
The first average will still be 0. The second will be the 10 plus 6 divided by 2. So there will be 8.
Okay. So it's 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay. One more thing I would like to tell you here, that print is very important for you. Because why? Because for you to be able to know what is really happening, or if you are facing an issue inside your code, the only way to know that by putting print. So in my, I mean, when I'm troubleshooting long code, and especially if it is difficult, or it's I'm worried that I have a problem in the code. So typically, I always do this kind of practice. My advice to you is to do something similar until you are confident of your code. So I will do it like that. So I will do print with S as a short for start, and then E as a short for end, and then in the middle I can do any print that I want. So for example, I want inside the function to know if the function really doing what I really want. Of course, in this case, it's very simple. So we know very well that it's working perfectly. We already tested it and we already calculated it in our minds, and we know it's working, right? But it's not like that all the time. Not all the time we are calculating some average that is very simple to do. So in this case, I would write something like that, and I would output the average, but I would say here inside the function. So I would write like that and then run it. So by doing so, you will be able to see here how the code is running. So you see here that first this line, which is line 141, it is appearing first in the screen. And then after that, the last print, this in line 157 is appearing. So do you notice that? Is that clear to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. So I will stop the share here, and I will go back to the functions here. We continue that. So as I said, if they ask you to write a long code in the exam, my advice to you, write it into functions to make it simple and fast, and to make the code more readable and more easier for you to troubleshoot. Okay, so now we already do this average, right? We have done it, but we even write a more advanced code than what he writes here. So, okay. Joey, you're following me, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Joey, do you still remember the function of range? What this range gives to us? Here, so you see here, he's defining a function that's called table. So no, now we have to close and we enter again using the same link. Okay.